Hatritsestisai, have you ever been so invisible that people looked right through you until the day you saved everything they cared about? This is the heartwarming story of a shy girl named Layla Carter, whose mother's tongue, a rare Chinese dialect, became the key to saving a company worth millions. The conference room on the 42nd floor gleamed with polished mahogany and floor-to-ceiling windows. Outside, the Chicago skyline stretched endlessly. Inside, tension simmered like water about to boil. Layla Carter sat in the back corner, hands folded neatly on her lap, a stack of photocopied documents beside her chair. At 27, this shy girl had mastered the art of occupying space without claiming it. Victoria Thompson stood at the head of the table, her designer suit as sharp as her voice. "Layla," she announced loud enough for everyone to hear, "just stay within your limited capacity, sweetheart." A few people glanced away. No one spoke up. Layla's fingers tightened around her pen, but she said nothing. She never did. The door swung open. Jasper Ellison entered like winter itself, 32 years old, CEO, and carrying the kind of silence that made people straighten their spines. He moved to the table without greeting anyone, flipping through a translation file with mechanical precision. Then he stopped. "This sentence is wrong." His voice was flat, emotionless. "Who handled this Chinese translation?" The room held its breath. Victoria's smile tightened. "Perhaps Layla mishandled the documents during copying." Layla's heart hammered. I only made copies. I didn't." Jasper didn't look at her. His eyes remained fixed on the page, but something flickered across his face, an old wound barely visible. "I'm not repeating what happened last time," he said quietly. Someone whispered to their neighbor. "After his best friend betrayed him with a mistranslation, can you blame him for trusting no one?" Layla lowered her head, feeling herself disappear. But as the meeting continued with the Chinese partners on video, something strange happened. The partner made a joke, and the main interpreter translated it smoothly. Everyone laughed on cue, except this shy girl heard something else entirely. The word was zan di, a phrase in the rare Hakka Chinese dialect. Her mother had taught her one that barely existed in textbooks. It didn't mean what the interpreter said. It meant a deliberate pause in the hidden plan. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "Listen carefully, my love. Our tongue holds secrets others cannot hear." Layla's hand trembled as she reached for a sticky note. She wrote 6 words in her careful script, there intentionally slowing the process down. She hesitated. This wasn't inspirational courage, just terror wrapped in necessity. Then, with a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff, she placed the note beside Jasper's hand. He glanced down. For the first time in 6 months, his eyes found hers, and in that moment, everything began to change. But speaking up would cost this shy girl everything she had left. Would anyone believe the one they'd never even seen? Jasper folded the note without comment, slipping it into his jacket pocket. The meeting continued, as if nothing had happened, but Layla noticed his posture had changed. He was listening differently now, not just to the Chinese interpreter's words, but to the spaces between them. Victoria noticed, too. Her eyes narrowed. "Layla," she said sweetly, venom coating every syllable, "why don't you fetch more coffee? Leave the translations to professionals who actually understand Chinese business culture." As Layla passed Jasper, she heard him murmur, "Interesting." It was the first time anyone had called anything about her interesting. When the meeting ended, Layla returned to her small desk tucked behind the filing cabinets. Her phone buzzed, "Rents due Friday." Maya Layla closed her eyes. Since her mother died 2 years ago, every month was a tightrope walk between paying bills and buying groceries. This job, humiliating as it was, kept her housed. She pulled out a small wooden box from her bag. Inside lay her mother's notebook, filled with phrases in the Hakka Chinese dialect. "These words are your inheritance," her mother had told her. "Our tongue carries the wisdom of generations. Don't let it disappear." Who would listen to a shy girl like her? The next morning, Victoria summoned her to the glass-walled office. "You disrupted a multi-million-dollar negotiation with the Chinese partners," Victoria said, leaning back in her leather chair. "You're suspended, 2 weeks unpaid. Maybe you'll learn your place." "But I was trying to help. That's final." Layla walked out on numb legs. She heard whispers. What did she expect, and way above her pay grade? She made it to the elevator before the tears came. That evening, Layla sat on her apartment floor, surrounded by bills she couldn't pay. Student loans, rent, her mother's final hospital invoice. Maya sat beside her, silent and worried. She opened her mother's notebook again, fingers tracing the familiar characters. There on the 3rd page, "Speaking truth is an act of love even when no one wants to hear it." Her phone buzzed. An email from IT department, Henry Lopez, subject, "You might want to see this." Layla met Henry the next day at a coffee shop 3 blocks away. He was 45 with kind eyes and the patient demeanor of someone who'd spent years watching office politics from the server room. "I've noticed you," he said, sliding a USB drive across the table. "You're always the last one to leave conference rooms. You straighten chairs. You care, and that's rare." "What is this?" The company announced at the start of the year that all meetings would be automatically backed up for compliance. Most people forgot. Henry leaned forward. "I didn't. And I think this shy girl heard something in that meeting that matters more than anyone realizes." She took the drive with shaking hands. That night, with headphones on, and her mother's notebook open beside her, Layla listened to the recording. She heard the Chinese partner's voice clearly now. She heard the interpreter stumbling over phrases, deliberately mistranslating key terms. Then she heard something else, the unmistakable ping of a WeChat message during a whispered sidebar. Layla's heart raced. She rewound, listening again. There. Victoria's voice, barely audible in Mandarin, "Just a bit longer. Trust the process." And the partner's response in Hakka, the Chinese dialect Victoria had claimed not to understand. "The payment has been arranged as discussed." Layla sat back, her mind spinning. This wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. Victoria Thompson was betraying the company. But who would believe a suspended employee? Who would trust the shy girl who made photocopies? She thought of her mother, who'd spent her life translating at a community center, helping immigrants who felt invisible. "We speak for those who cannot speak for themselves," her mother had said. That is the highest calling of the tongue, to bring truth to light. Layla's hands trembled as she pressed play again, taking notes. If no one would listen to her voice, perhaps they'd listen to the evidence. Perhaps this heartwarming story of a mother's gift, a rare Chinese dialect passed down through generations, could become something more, an inspirational tale of justice. But first, she needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. And she knew exactly where to find it. The evidence was hidden in plain sound, but bringing it to light meant risking everything she couldn't afford to lose. Layla didn't sleep that night. She listened to the recording 17 times, transcribing every word, every suspicious pause. Her mother's notebook lay open beside her laptop, the Hakka Chinese characters now serving as a translation key to unlock the conspiracy. By dawn, her notebook was filled with timestamps and translations that painted a disturbing picture. Henry had told her to meet him in the parking garage at 6 in the morning. "Did you find anything?" he asked, handing her a coffee. Layla's hands trembled as she showed him her notes. Victoria Thompson has been altering Chinese translations. Deliberately. She's being paid by the partner company to manipulate the deal. It's fraud. Can you prove it? The audio proves she's communicating in a Chinese dialect she claimed not to understand. But I need the document metadata, edit history, timestamps, IP addresses. Henry nodded. I can get you system access. But Layla, if you're wrong. I know. She met his eyes and something in her had shifted. The shy girl who lowered her head was still there, but standing beside her now was someone else. Someone who'd heard her mother's voice reminding her, "You have a tongue of your own. Use it for truth." That afternoon, Layla sat in the small server room with Henry pulling up file after file. Every official Chinese translation passed through a shared drive before reaching Jasper's desk. "Look at this," Henry said, pointing at the screen. This Chinese contract was edited at 3:12 in the morning. The user ID is Victoria Thompson. Layla leaned closer. But the meeting happened at 2 in the afternoon. Why edit it 13 hours later? Henry clicked through the version history. 11 changes in 15 minutes, all to financial terms. Immediate payment changed to deferred payment structure. Fixed pricing changed to flexible negotiation terms. Layla felt something cold settle in her chest. She's been sabotaging every Chinese partnership deal that came through. There's more. Henry opened another folder. These QR codes in the Chinese documents linked to internal pages also modified by her account. She's creating shadow versions. But why? If the deals fail, someone benefits. And that someone is paying Victoria very well. For the next 3 days, Layla worked in secret. Henry gave her access through the service entrance after hours. She cross-referenced every Chinese translation Victoria had produced in 6 months, comparing versions, tracking changes, building an airtight timeline. She discovered Victoria had been manipulating translations for over a year. The pattern was always the same small alterations buried in technical language. And every time a deal stalled, Victoria's bank account showed deposits from an offshore account, traced to the Chinese partner's parent company. But there was something else. Something deeply personal. In old emails from 3 years ago, Layla found information about Jasper's best friend, Marcus Chen, a Chinese-American businessman who'd been head of international relations. Marcus had deliberately mistranslated a critical Chinese contract clause, causing the company to nearly collapse. Jasper had testified against his own friend. Marcus went to prison for corporate fraud, and Victoria Thompson had been Marcus's assistant back then. Layla's hands went cold. This wasn't just about money. This was revenge, a calculated destruction of everything Jasper had rebuilt. On Friday afternoon, Layla stood outside the building staring up at the 42nd floor. Her suspension ended Monday, but by then it would be too late. Jasper was scheduled to sign the final Chinese partnership contract this afternoon. Once signed, the manipulated terms would become legally binding. She thought of her mother, who'd spent her life using her tongue to help others, translating at a community center, helping immigrants who felt small. "We speak for those who cannot speak for themselves," her mother had said. That is the highest calling. This shy girl pulled out her phone and began typing with trembling fingers. To Jasper Ellison. Legal Department subject, urgent translation fraud, Chinese contract at risk body Mr. Ellison. I have evidence of deliberate document alteration affecting today's contract signing. The Chinese translations have been systematically manipulated. Please do not sign until you've reviewed the attached files. This is not a mistake, it's a conspiracy. Layla Carter. She attached everything audio files with Hakka Chinese dialogue. Victoria had hidden metadata reports, timeline analysis, bank transfer records. Her finger hovered over the send button. If she was wrong, she'd never work in this industry again. If she was right, she'd be making an enemy of someone powerful. Either way, she'd be visible. She'd be seen. And after a lifetime of trying to disappear, that terrified her more than anything. But her mother's voice rose above the fear. Light doesn't need to be loud, my love. It only needs to shine. This could be the most inspirational moment of her life or the biggest mistake. But staying silent was no longer an option. Layla pressed send. Then she walked through the front doors, her suspended employee badge clutched in her hand, ready to face whatever came next. The shy girl was about to speak, and this time the world would have to listen. This heartwarming story of a mother's gift, a rare Chinese dialect, was about to become an inspirational tale of justice. The email was sent, but Jasper was already in the signing room, pen in hand, seconds away from destroying everything he'd built. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt endless. Layla watched the numbers climb, each ding bringing her closer to the moment she'd either save everything or lose it all. Her reflection showed a woman she barely recognized, jaw-set shoulders, back, eyes clear. When the doors opened, she heard voices from the conference room. The signing ceremony had begun. She found Henry near the IT closet. "I need you to unlock the conference room. Override Victoria's security clearance if necessary." Henry studied her face. "You're sure about this? I can't stay silent anymore." Inside, Jasper sat at the head of the table, the Chinese partnership contract spread before him. The partners filled the video screen. Victoria stood behind Jasper's right shoulder, serene and victorious, a woman watching her revenge finally succeed. Jasper reached for his fountain pen. His phone buzzed, an email marked urgent. He hesitated, glancing at it. His face changed, confusion, then recognition, then fear. He scrolled through the attachments, his jaw tightening. That's when Layla pushed the door open. Every head turned. Shocked silence. "Layla," Victoria's voice was ice wrapped in silk. "You don't work here anymore. Someone call security." "Mr. Ellison." Layla interrupted, stepping forward. "Please review the documents, all of them, before you sign anything." Jasper's eyes met hers. "You have 30 seconds. Layla pulled out her tablet, her voice steady. "The Chinese translations you've been given are fraudulent. Victoria Thompson has been altering documents for over a year. I have audio proof of her speaking the Hakka dialect. She claimed not to understand metadata timestamps, showing late-night edits and bank transfer records from their parent company to her accounts." Victoria laughed sharply. "This is absurd. This girl is a disgruntled employee making desperate accusations." "The file you edited at 3:12 a.m. last Tuesday," Layla said, pulling up the screen. "You changed immediate payment terms to flexible deferred structure. The IP address traces to your home network." Victoria's smile faltered. "The audio captures you speaking Mandarin with the partner. You said just a bit longer. And he replied in Hakka, the dialect you claimed not to understand, saying, 'The payment has been arranged.'" Dead silence. Jasper stood slowly. He looked at Victoria, pain flickering across his face. "Not again. Not someone I trusted." Victoria's composure cracked. "You don't understand? Then explain." Jasper's voice was quiet, dangerous. "Explain the midnight edits, the offshore transfers. Explain why you called this employee incompetent when she's the only one who caught what you were doing." Victoria went white. Layla took a breath. "You worked for Marcus Chen 3 years ago. You were his assistant when he betrayed Mr. Ellison with fraudulent translations. This isn't about money. This is revenge." Jasper's face drained of color. "Is that true?" Victoria's hands trembled. "Marcus was a good man. You destroyed him. Marcus committed fraud. Jasper said, his voice breaking. He nearly destroyed this company. He turned to Layla. You're saying she's been trying to finish what he started? Layla nodded. The pattern matches perfectly. Buried in the altered clauses are terms that would have bankrupted you within 2 years. Jasper looked at Victoria, devastation on his face. I gave you a chance after Marcus. You gave me nothing, Victoria spat. You never saw this insignificant girl who spent months trying to warn you. She warned me with a note, Jasper said quietly. And I listened. He nodded to the lawyers. Call security and get the district attorney's office on the line. As security escorted Victoria out, she glared at Layla. You just destroyed your career. No one will hire you after this. Layla met her eyes without flinching. My place was never beneath you. After the room cleared, Jasper and Layla stood alone. The city stretched beyond the windows. Why didn't you come to me sooner? He asked. Would you have listened? I'm the shy girl who makes photocopies. The one you walked past like I was furniture. Jasper flinched. You're right. I didn't see you. I've been so afraid of betrayal that I stopped seeing anyone. He paused. Not everyone is here to hurt you. Did you mean it? Yes. Not everyone is Marcus or Victoria. Some people just want to do the right thing. That's what my mother taught me. For the first time since she'd met him, Jasper smiled, small, fragile, but real. Thank you, he said, for seeing what I couldn't, for speaking up when it cost you everything. Layla nodded, clutching her mother's notebook. She'd spent 2 years feeling invisible, but today, someone had finally seen her. And it changed everything. But recognition wasn't enough. This act of courage was about to open doors the shy girl never knew existed. The following Monday morning, Layla returned to the office expecting to collect her final paycheck and personal belongings. She'd spent the weekend in a strange fog part, relief part, terror, entirely uncertain what came next. Maya had hugged her fiercely, saying, You did the most inspirational thing I've ever seen. But neither of them knew if courage alone would pay the rent. The company lobby felt different now, or maybe Layla was different. She stood taller without trying. People glanced at her as she walked toward the elevator, not past her, but at her. Some nodded. One woman from accounting mouthed, "Thank you," as the elevator doors closed. Word had spread fast. Victoria's arrest had been the talk of the building all weekend. The news media had picked up the story. Tech CEO narrowly avoids multi-million-dollar Chinese partnership fraud thanks to alert employee. Layla's name wasn't mentioned. Jasper's legal team had kept it confidential for her protection, but inside the company, everyone knew. The shy girl was no longer invisible. Henry met her on the 38th floor, a knowing smile on his weathered face. Jasper wants to see you. Conference room B. Bring your mother's notebook, the one with the Chinese dialect. Layla's heart skipped. Why would he want that? You'll see. Henry winked. And Layla, whatever happens next, you earned it. Don't doubt that for a second. Conference room B was smaller, warmer than the glass fortress where everything had unraveled. Jasper sat at the table with 3 other people Layla didn't recognize. 2 women and a man, all dressed professionally, all looking at her with something that resembled genuine respect. Layla, Jasper said, standing when she entered. Please sit. She took a seat, clutching her mother's notebook, her inheritance of tongue and truth like a lifeline. Jasper folded his hands on the table, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weight it hadn't before. Not authority, but gratitude. Over the past 72 hours, our legal team conducted a full audit of every translation and contract processed through this company in the last 18 months. We found 47 instances of deliberate alteration in Chinese partnership documents. Without your intervention, we would have signed a contract that would have bankrupted us within 24 months. One of the women, tall with silver-streaked hair, leaned forward. I'm Rebecca Chu, head of legal. What you did required extraordinary skill, courage, and integrity. Those qualities are rare. We'd like to offer you a position. Layla blinked, certain she'd misheard. What? Jasper continued, and she noticed his hands were clasped tightly, as if holding something fragile. This company needs transparency. It needs accountability. It needs people who will speak truth, even when it's terrifying to do so. He paused, meeting her eyes. We want to create a new department, ethics and language compliance. Its job will be to verify all translations, audit contracts for manipulation, and create systems that prevent what Victoria did from ever happening again. The second woman spoke, younger, with kind eyes. I'm Dr. Sarah Park, organizational psychology. We want someone who understands language not just as words, but as trust, as connection, as the foundation of honest business, whether that's English, Chinese, or any other tongue. She smiled warmly. We want you to lead this department, Layla. The room tilted. Layla gripped the edge of the table. Me, but I'm just... You're not just anything, Jasper interrupted gently. You're the person who saw what no one else could see. You're fluent in a Chinese dialect that saved this company, and you're someone who understands what it means to be overlooked, which means you'll fight to make sure it doesn't happen to others. Layla's throat tightened. She thought of her mother, who'd spent her life using her tongue to help people who needed a voice, who'd taught her Hakka Chinese because she believed languages held more than words. They held lineage, dignity, belonging. What would this position involve? She asked quietly. Rebecca slid a folder across the table. You'd build a team, establish protocols for document verification across all languages, create training programs on ethical communication. You'd report directly to Jasper and have authority to audit any contract, any translation, at any time. No one would be able to override you. The man spoke for the first time, older, with a gentle demeanor. I'm David Chen, no relation to Marcus. I was Jasper's mentor before I retired. What happened with Marcus broke something in this company. Trust became impossible. But you've shown us that trust can be rebuilt slowly, carefully, by people who refuse to stay silent when truth needs a tongue to speak it. Jasper leaned forward, and Layla saw something in his face she'd never seen before: hope. I've been so afraid of betrayal that I stopped trusting good people. I walked past you every day and never saw you. That's on me. But I'm asking you now, will you help me build something better? Something where people like you, the quiet ones with important truths, are heard. Layla looked down at her mother's notebook, running her fingers over the worn cover. Inside were words that had traveled across oceans, survived wars, outlasted empires. Her mother had given her a gift she was only now beginning to understand, not just a rare Chinese dialect, but the courage to use it. This heartwarming moment felt like her mother speaking through time itself. She looked up, and when she spoke, her voice was steady. Yes, I'll do it. The relief on Jasper's face was profound. Thank you, he said softly. We'll start you at a salary commensurate with the department head, with full benefits and a signing bonus to cover. He hesitated, suddenly uncertain. Whatever you need to feel secure. Layla thought of the rent notice, the student loans, the hospital bills. She thought of Maya's worried texts and the nights she'd lain awake wondering if speaking up had been the worst mistake of her life. This was more than inspirational. It was transformative. "Thank you," she whispered. "That means more than you know." Rebecca stood, extending her hand. "Welcome to leadership, Layla. We're honored to have you." As the meeting ended and the others filed out, Jasper lingered. "Can I ask you something?" Layla nodded. "That word you heard, Zandi, in the Chinese Hakka dialect. Your mother taught you that?" "Yes. She was a translator at a community center. She helped immigrants who felt invisible just like—" Layla's voice caught. "Just like I did. She believed our tongue, our language could change lives if we had the courage to use it." Jasper's expression softened with understanding. "She'd be proud of you. So incredibly proud." Tears spilled over before Layla could stop them. "I hope so. I really hope so." "I know so," Jasper said quietly. "Because you just proved that the quietest voice in the room can be the most powerful, and that's something worth remembering." But Layla's transformation was just beginning, and the door to her new office held one more heartwarming surprise. 3 weeks later, Layla stood before her new office door. The nameplate read, "Layla Carter, Director of Ethics and Language Compliance." She ran her fingers over the engraved letters, still half convinced this was a dream. Inside the office was small but bright, with windows overlooking the city. Someone had left a potted orchid on the windowsill with a note for new beginnings. "Your courage inspired us all. Henry." Layla set down her box containing books, a photo of her mother, and the wooden box with the Hakka notebook. She placed the notebook in her desk drawer, her mother's tongue finally given the honor it deserved. "I did it, Mom," she whispered. "I spoke up, and someone listened." She sat in her chair and allowed herself to cry, not from sadness but from relief so profound it felt like breathing for the first time in years. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Jasper stood in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. "So, may I come in?" He sat across from her desk, a reversal that wasn't lost on either of them. "How's the department coming together?" he asked. "Good. I've interviewed 3 potential team members, all people who understand what it's like to be underestimated. We're building a team where every tongue matters." Layla's eyes brightened. "And I've designed verification protocols. Every translation will go through 3-step authentication with independent reviewers who actually speak the languages fluently." Jasper nodded, impressed. "You work fast." "I've had a lot of practice being invisible," Layla said with a small smile. "Turns out when you're invisible, you see everything everyone else misses." He laughed genuinely. "Since the news broke, I've had 7 companies reach out asking us to consult on their compliance systems. What you did is making waves. People are calling it inspirational." Layla felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I just did what needed to be done." "That's exactly why it matters." Jasper's expression grew serious. "Layla, I owe you an apology. For not seeing you, but also for creating an environment where Victoria could thrive while you had to fight to be heard. You're not responsible for her choices." "No, but I'm responsible for mine. I was so locked in my fear after Marcus's betrayal that I stopped seeing people. You taught me that trust isn't about being invulnerable. It's about being brave enough to believe in good people even after bad ones hurt you." Layla's throat tightened. "That goes both ways. You listened when it mattered most. You believed me when I had no reason to expect you would. That's the most heartwarming gift anyone's given me since my mother died." "Next time you have something important to say," Jasper said gently, "you come directly to me. No more sticky notes. You matter." Next time, Layla said softly, I won't lower my head. My mother's tongue taught me better than that. That evening, Layla called Maya from her office, watching the sun set in shades of gold and rose. So, Maya said excitedly, are you going to tell me about this promotion? Layla laughed. I'm a department director with a real salary. We can pay rent on time now. Maya squealed. I'm so proud of you. Your mom would be. She stopped hearing Layla's quiet tears. She is proud. You honored everything she taught you. I wish she could see this, Layla whispered. She can. She taught you the dialect that saved the company. She gave you the courage to use your tongue for truth. She's in every word you speak. You're living her legacy. Later that night, alone in her office, Layla pulled out her mother's notebook. On the last page in her mother's handwriting was a phrase, the smallest voice can shatter the loudest lie. She traced the Chinese characters, remembering her mother's hands, guiding hers, teaching her the shapes and sounds of a language that belonged to them both. Thank you, she whispered, for teaching me to listen, for teaching me to speak, for teaching me that being invisible doesn't mean being powerless, for giving me a tongue that could change everything. Outside her window, the city lights glittered like stars, and Layla Carter, once overlooked, once dismissed, finally saw herself reflected in the glass, whole, worthy scene.